Hi everyone, this is Takara from Magnificent You and Deep Dive Publishers, and today I want to share with you several things. Basically, I'm doing the newsletter in video format. Hopefully you're okay with that. I will do a transcript so you can read the information as well, but there's a lot that I want to convey, and it's just faster and easier if I do it like this. Plus, when I communicate with you with my voice, it's just a different level of communication. I've been creating a lot of videos lately for multiple channels on YouTube, and so I thought I would do the newsletter in this format as well. So the first thing that I want to share with you is that this coming weekend is Equinox, right? The 23rd of September is the official equinox this fall, or if you're down under, it's spring equinox, right? So every equinox for the past 25 years, my dear friend David J. Adams in Australia, a famous oracle and a dear friend of mine, have been co-leading two meditations that deal with healing the oceans and the waters of the world and connecting with dolphin and whale consciousness and upgrading the vibration inside your body and all the water on the planet, right? And also having this communion with dolphins and whales. David received this meditation, I believe it was 1992, if I'm remembering right. Regardless, it's his 33rd year. He received this meditation from what he calls Master Germain. Here in the West, we would call that Saint Germain. Regardless, being of light channeled this information through David, and it was a guided meditation to heal the waters and commune with dolphins and whales, right? David's in Australia. I'd never heard of David. In 1998, I woke up at 4 a.m., which is the time of morning when at precisely 4:00 on the clock, my guides would wake me up and I would have insight coming in. And that, happens periodically for me. So at 4 a.m. one morning in 1998, when I was living on top of a sacred mountain in Southern California, the words to this meditation were burning in my brain. Like I had to get up at precisely 4 and start writing it all down. And it works to heal the oceans, raise the vibration of all the water on planet Earth, including the water inside your body, and commune with dolphin and whale consciousness. Okay. Now, I didn't know at the time where it was coming from. I have a lot of guides. I don't always say, who is this? I just can feel in my body because I'm very clairsentient. I know when it's from a high source, and I just trust it and go with it, right? So I didn't really know where my information came from, right? I just knew it was from on high. I put it down. But I also had this inner knowing that not just me needed to say these words or do these visualizations, right? I knew intuitively that as many people as possible needed to have this same intention simultaneously. And so I was guided to do it at Equinox. And it was, I believe, in the fall. I believe it was fall equinox back in 1998. So I reached out to a woman named Barbara Wolf who had, I believe still has, a global meditation email newsletter or email list where if you want to be part of global meditations that are intended to heal the oceans, raise the vibration, help with humanity's ascension, the Earth's ascension, and that sort of thing, deal with environmental disasters, wars, like trying to send energy and healing with multiple people focused in that way. She had a list for people like that wanted to participate in things like that. And so I knew about her list. I was on that list. And so I reached out to Barbara and I told her about this meditation I'd received and that it was to happen at Equinox. And I asked if she would send it out to her list, so that more people could find out about it, and the right people, the people that were already doing this sort of work for the planet. And she sent me an email back and she just said, you need to connect with David J. Adams in Australia. And she gave me his email address. She didn't say who he was, anything about him. He didn't have a website. This was long before social media. Google didn't exist yet, right? This was a long time ago. And I'm one of those people, or I used to be. I've healed all that since then. But, you know, when I was just getting started, I didn't like reaching out to strangers. There's a reason. I've got a whole story behind why, but I was uncomfortable doing it. But I did it because it felt like it was important, and so I did. So I reached out to this total stranger, told him that I'd received a meditation. I had no idea how he'd even take that. Like, was he woo or was he not? Like, she told me nothing, right? Anyway, I told him about the meditation, and I told him that Barbara suggested that I talk to him. And so he wrote me back, and he said about his meditation that he had received in 1992 from Master Germain. And, you know, we shared kind of what was in each one. And we finally decided to just, I'll send me yours, you send me mine. We'll read each other's meditations. This is really cool. There were so many similarities. It was eerie. Okay. And so ever since then, we felt like, okay, it's basically the same message. The nuances, the colors, the things you do are slightly different, but really it's the same idea, just coming through two different channels. And so David has been doing his globally with an email list, you know, since 1992. And with me coming on board in 1998, we've been co-leading them every equinox since, right? So this is the 25th year for the collaboration, but it's also the 33rd year or so for what he's been doing. And so it's a big deal, right? What happens with it is it gets more powerful every year. As we grow and evolve and we can hold more light, there's more power in the intention that we send out, right? So it's a healing for the oceans and the waterways, the rivers, the streams, the tributaries, the lakes, the ponds, all the water. It's also a healing for us. And it's really powerful. And David's insight from Master Germain is that this one is really going to rock. Rock meaning really powerful, really good. Okay. So I'm encouraging you to join in. We're not doing anything live like on a Zoom or anything like that. It is in the comfort of your own home or with a group that you're leading or a group that you're part of. You just take time to read the meditation and you close your eyes and you do the visualizations. And when you go to the website, and I'll have the link in below, there you can either download the words right from the website, or if you'd like to, you can fill in the little box and, you know, with your name and email, it will automatically send you recordings of me doing the meditation live. And there's a couple of different iterations of that. And there's also like a PDF version of the meditation so you can print it out easier than just printing pages off a website. Okay, so that's about the meditation. I encourage you to get involved because where two or more are gathered is a powerful technology. And the more of us there are, the more powerful it is and the bigger shift it creates, right? The more the transformation is for us and the planet. And the planet needs us, right? And we need the planet. Water's healing for us, and we're also helping the water. We're in collaboration here, right? We are supposed to be the custodians of the earth. We are supposed to be the caretakers, the ones that are protecting the environment and cleaning up the trash and making things better and returning it to paradise, if you will, as far as the ecology. We fail. Humans fail at that, right? We have a lot of pollution. We have a lot of things. And this meditation is a way to help assist in cleansing all of that and healing all of that. So that's piece number one that I wanted you to know about. All right. The more I talk, obviously, the more I need to hydrate. So, second up is a project that I'm working on, but it also dovetails in with a story I need to tell. So, I'm going to start telling you about the project and then dovetail into the other, and you'll see how it weaves. because it wasn't until this morning when I was thinking about what I was going to share with you that I realized the two are intrinsically linked. Okay? So I don't remember when it was, but last year at some point, I received this intuitive inspiration to put together a collaborative book. A collaborative book, multi-author book collaboration, like Dolphins and Whales Forever, the #1 book collaboration that I led, it's where multiple authors write a single chapter. Okay, and I was divinely guided to create a book called The Courage to Leave. And the point of that book is to give hope to those who are stuck in situations they don't feel they know how to get out of, that are not good for them, right? It could be emotionally draining. It could be physically unhealthy for them. It's just bad situations. And many of us have been in those situations. I certainly have, and you probably have as well. And I was able to get out, and hopefully you were too, okay? But not everyone is. Not everyone has the courage. If a person is with a narcissist, if they're with an abuser, you know, like if they're in a marriage or a partnership where a person is physically abusive, there's something that happens psychologically where the person that's in that situation begins to believe that they deserve it, or they don't see how bad it is. They just, you know, they're stuck in it, and it really warps their perspective, and they're not happy, but in some cases they don't even know that they want to get out, right? It's really, the psychology of it all is really scary, intriguing, but very scary. Anyway, I was guided to create this book to help offer hope to people in those situations so that they can see that you can get out and life can get better. So with every single chapter in the book, whoever participates, they will write their single chapter. It will be about the situation that they were in, the bad situation that they were in, what happened that helped them get out, right? Was there just a final straw, like things just got so bad they didn't have a choice? Or help showed up, you know, they read a book, they saw some video, a friend intervened, whatever, right? Whatever the catalyst was that helped them make that change. They mustered up the courage to get out of the situation, and then how their life improved because they found that courage. And then after that, so that's the arc. That's the arc of the story. The situation is bad. Something happened that helped me get out, and then how my life got better because I did that. And then the final piece of it is, what do I do now? You know, who am I in the world and what do I do now? It's a way to showcase who they are and what they do in their business, right? So I was guided to create a book full of stories like that to offer hope to people who haven't found the courage yet, but really need to get out, really need to, you know, they're fabulous people that have a lot to offer, that deserve happiness, but they're stuck in this situation and they don't know how to get out. This book is to help them find the courage, right? That's the whole point of it. And there's a lot of different ways to do books like this. In some books, you know, the people that participate pay a fee up front because on the back end as a publisher, there is a ton of work to do, okay? You have to format the whole book. You have to have a cover. You have to have it editing. You have to handle you have to do all the promotion. You have to teach the people how to write the stories. It is a big, big job on the part of the publisher, which in this case is me. So there's a fee up front to participate, okay? And I've seen everything from a couple grand, I believe one of them I'm aware of is like $6,000 to participate in a collaboration like this, okay? There is a fee to participate in this one, but it's a lot less than that, okay? There's two different levels. One is $997, that means just under $1,000. The other one is $1,497. The only difference is at $1,497, you get a private session with me saying how to leverage this book specifically in your own business. you also get to write a slightly longer chapter, and you get to have a longer bio at the end. So, but other than that, it's basically the same. And the whole point is to help others, but to also showcase who you are and to help you get bestseller status, right? Because in different markets, when I walk in and people are saying, I want somebody on my radio show, and the first thing I say is I'm a 4-time best-selling author and blah, 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 I immediately get the interview. I always get the interview. There's no competition, right? Because I'm a best-selling author. Now, you don't have to have 4, and you don't even have to be a best-selling author. If you just say you're an author, that also sets you apart, and it makes people, they just assume you're an expert if you've written a whole book on a subject, okay? So being an author, being a best-selling author is one of those credentials that puts you at the head of the line. And we all need those because the competition is pretty fierce. Even though a lot of what we do is totally unique, we still have to explain it to people. And the more credibility boosters you have in your, the more things you can say about yourself, the more endorsements you have, the more credibility boosters you have, the easier it is to get more clients. I mean, that's just the truth, okay? Those of us who are spiritual know how to ask for clients, and we can get clients. I mean, there are other ways, but there's also these things you can do that help. And this is a way, and it's to help other people, right? The purpose of it is to help other people. And not only is it to give them encouragement, those people that read it, but what it really also is going to do is all the proceeds are going to charities, nonprofits that help women and children, okay? And I had originally chosen a charity, but it wasn't actually a 401(c) nonprofit. And when I looked at what they were doing, I thought their cause was noble, but it wasn't actually as life-changing as what I would like to be supporting financially. I want something that is housing people, giving them skills so that they can support themselves and their children. Charities like Dress for Success, where they give people job skills and they give them outfits to go do interviews with. And, they really help people get back on their feet after they've been in these bad situations. And so, and I'm not saying Dress for Success is one of them. What I decided is that together, the people that come together to write this book are going to be the ones to decide together the charities we want to support. And I think we're going to support more than one. Okay. That just feels more correct for what this needs to be. Anyway, so that is about this project. Now, what happened is I started the project. I got a few people who agreed to participate. They've already paid their fees. They've already started writing their bios and different things. And then my dad took a turn for the worse. As some of you may or may not know, the reason I'm on the East Coast is because 10, 12 years ago, I had just divorced and my dad was diagnosed with cancer. So I moved my son and myself over to the East Coast into Virginia in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains and to care for my 2 aging parents. And in the last 3 years, my dad his health really declined. And the last year was just horrendous. I mean, just horrendous. And at the very, very end, my mom and I were up 24 hours a day, taking turns, sitting up with him. He was, dying. And when hospice wasn't here, I was the one administering the morphine and the diazepam and whatever else. I think that's right. Anyway, whatever the medicine is. Like, I'm not a nurse. I don't know anything about all that, but I had to be trained. And it was very scary, and it was very hard, and it was an intense time. And so this project had to be put on hold. And, then my dad died. And so there's the whole mourning of that. And then there's dealing with the aftermath of it. All the people to notify. All the paperwork that has to be filled out. you know, there's just so many things that have to happen when someone crosses over, and it all fell on me. You know, I'm the one that did all that, and I'm still doing that. There's still pieces that we're finishing up now. So the project just had to be completely put on hold. But recently I was guided that it's time to pick it up again. So this project is now back underway. We've recently got some new people, you know, joining in. And so anybody that feels called to do this, that has a story or knows someone who has a story who'd like to participate, please contact me, because I am looking for people. And, you know, we are going to move forward with this really soon. How does this dovetail with this other story I want to share? So in the last newsletter, I shared that there is an orca named Lolita, also named Tokitae, also named a Northwest Lummi Nation name that I haven't mastered pronouncing yet. Okay, but she has different names, but her stage name was Lolita. When I heard her story, that is the name I was told. And so for years, I thought of her and referred to her as Lolita. That really roused some people up, okay, because that's her slave name. And they're not wrong about that. But those of us who fell in love with her, those of us who took up the cause to try to help set her free, know and love her as that name. And so for us, it's not a horrible name. It's this love we feel for her. Anyway, whatever name, it doesn't really matter, right? A beautiful being was enslaved in Sea Aquarium, Miami. And in the last newsletter, I shared with you this amazing thing that happened where they finally decided they were going to put together a sea pen in the Northwest to be near her family, and she was going to get to go home and be in those waters, retire there, you know, and live out the remainder of her days. What we later came to realize very abruptly is that they were lying. They were lying. I don't know who was lying. I don't know if it was, I mean, I know the voice, I know who was announcing that everything was hunky-dory and fabulous, and that was the owners of this orca. But whether they knew the real situation and were flat out lying, or if the people reporting to them were misreporting, like that's behind the scenes stuff that I will never know, right? But somebody in this scenario was lying. So they said they were going to set her free, not free. They were going to retire her to a seaplane in the San Juans. A huge area was going to be penned off, and you know, she could swim finally deeper, whatever, because in her tank, if she went vertical, her tail would touch the bottom and her nose would be at the top of the water. Like, this was a dinky tank, way too small for an orca. I don't believe any cetacean should be in captivity, but that's, you know, I know they're sentient beings. I've communed with this one for decades. I've communed with her family, like literally interchanges of energy and information. Like, I know they're sentient. Okay. Anyway, so they said they were going to, you know, move her back to the San Juans, put her in this giant sea pen. The owner of the Colts football thing, franchise, whatever the official term is, was going to pay for a lot of this or give a giant donation toward it or something. Anyway, they made this huge announcement on a Wednesday. The owner said she was looking great. She was like doing better than she had in ages. She had all this energy. She was looking fabulous. And then Friday, it was announced that she died. We were all devastated. We were all hugely devastated. And, you know, then we dig through what is really going on. Clearly there were lies. They were saying she was doing great. Clearly she wasn't. And what it turned out was her food had been cut back by 25%. That means she was starving. And they were switching her tank. The tank was literally crumbling around her. It was that old, and it needed repair that bad. It also was full of algae. And for decades, they'd been using chlorine and other chemicals to I say other chemicals. I don't know that. They were using chlorine to get rid of algae and stuff, and that's what she'd been used to. And but chlorine can do a lot of damage, and she was starting to show some damage in her eyes that maybe there'd been too much chlorine and it was burning her eyes and damaging her eyes. Anyway, so they were switching it over to another system, and it wasn't working. Her whole tank was like fluorescent green in some of the last pictures you saw of her. Like it was fluorescent green with algae. And it turned out that she had this massive infection. She'd had it for quite a long time. They thought it was under control, but it clearly hadn't been. And she died. And that I and so many other people that over the years she's called out to wanting help have been devastated by the loss of her. For about a week, I was in shock. And then I started going through all the other emotions you go through when you're going through all the stages of mourning or grief. This whale is the reason I got out of the situation that I needed the courage to leave. This whale. I was a frontline supervisor and manager and engineer in a pharmaceuticals manufacturing plant in Pennsylvania. And they were putting in a brand new computer system into the plant. It was, people didn't have cell phones yet, right? It was, some people didn't even like calculators, okay? Computers were very scary to a lot of people, but we were implementing a computer-wide system on the production floor, and I was in charge of its implementation on the floor, right? It was a plant-wide, inventory system and whatever. So I was in charge of this inventory thing, this new computer system on the production floor. And so I was teaching material handlers, the people that use the dollies and the forklifts to bring pallets to the line to then pick up these giant boxes and dump them into these big bin things, these big hoppers with bottles or caps or tablets or whatever was going on the production line, because we were bottling all the Bayer aspirin in North America, okay? And because the system was going in, after one of these guys put new bottles on the line, they had to put something into the computer indicating that they did that. That was before it was all computerized and you could just take one of those little gun-looking things and just scan a barcode and then the system would automatically know. This was when you had to type crap in, right? And so they were having to do that, and they were scared, and they were unsure of how to do it, and it was all new. And so they would halt production and call me over the intercom, and I would have to go to that line, whatever line that was, and they would tell me what the problem was or what the question was, and I would have to answer it. And then somebody else would call, and then somebody else would call, and then somebody else would call. So all day, about every 5 minutes, my name was called over the intercom. Sometimes when I got to wherever the call came from, there would be 3 people waiting to ask me questions. And the whole time, production is halted, right? Production is not happening. And every decision that I made impacted the bottom line production for the day. So I was under this immense amount of stress. I was not happy. The stress was killing me. I was losing weight. My health was suffering. Like I was a basket case. I had already woken up spiritually. I was already eating holistically, and I'm here making Bayer aspirin, right? So for different reasons, this was not the ideal place for me. I mean, obviously, now I'm a best-selling author. I help people transform their lives. I'm a teacher. I bring in information and energy from multiple dimensions, like being an engineer and manager on a pharmaceutical manufacturing floor is not my mission in life, right? I was in the wrong place, and it was killing me. But I wasn't paying attention to that. I was just trying to do a good job, and trying to do a good job was mentally and emotionally just destroying me. And one day, one of my employees pulled me aside. They cared a lot. They were very concerned about me because of how I looked. And he was like, you've aged about 10 years in the past year. And I'm worried about you. Are you all right? Now, at first, I was really offended because I was very vain at the time. I was in my early 30s, right? I was vain. But I looked in the mirror that night and I had to agree with him. This job was killing me. And I wasn't cut out for it because I cared too much. I cared about the people. I cared about my reputation. I cared about that production was like all of it mattered to me. And I didn't have that really thick skin you need to do some certain jobs really well. I was much more of a nurturing, motherly, I cared about everybody and I wanted everybody to win kind of person. Still am, right? It's just who I am. And so the job was not really ideal for me, but I was doing it and I was making a lot of money. But I'd already woken up spiritually, and I was going to an 8-day Warriors in the Mist training with Stuart Wilde, my metaphysical mentor, one of my first teachers, who literally changed my life. But at this 8-day Warriors in the Mist in New Mexico, up in the mountains, beautiful location, up in these canyons south of Taos, New Mexico, I fell in love with the location. I loved being there, being in Stuart's presence and hearing his teachings. I mean, they were life-changing. They were absolutely life-changing. And some of the people that I met there, I'm still friends with, even today. One of the ladies in my group, we were broken up into groups of people of 11 or 12. I was in a group of 12 people. One of the ladies in there and there was one day that we did a trance dance. It was part of some of the different training. We did ropes courses, we did riding courses bareback and blindfolded, we did sweat lodges, we did a bazillion things in this training. But one of the things we did were these trance dances, and they would play different music and you would just dance, interpreting it with your body, allowing whatever emotions or feelings came through you to be expressed in dance, okay? And this one day, in one of these sessions, they had you pair up with someone, and so this other woman and I paired up, and the music that they played was very kind of sensual and fluid and moving. And whenever that sort of music comes on, I tend to, do this sort of thing, and it's kind of like I move like seaweed, and it's very like you're underwater. That's how I dance to certain kinds of music. Well, she did too. And it turned out we were both deeply dolphin connected, and she shared with me this story about this orca in Sea Aquarium, Miami. Afterward, we got talking, and she shared with me this story about Sea Aquarium, Miami, about Lolita, this orca that had originally been in the Northwest, that her family still swims free there, in the Salish Sea, out in the San Juans, off Washington State, and that she was setting up a nonprofit for dolphins and whales, with the primary focus to help set this orca free, and she was doing a really fabulous project. And a bunch of things happened, and the 8-day event ended, but hearing that orca's story changed my life. And I already had a newsletter that was going out all over the place, and so I started writing articles about Lolita. And then this woman invited me to come and participate with her and co-found this nonprofit to help set Lolita free. And then something else happened at work that really made me angry. I had woken up spiritually, and so I was taking a lot of courses. Like I said, I was earning a ton of money. So I had all this money that I could buy a bazillion books. I could pay for a lot of workshops. I could, do what I needed to do, have private sessions with healers, to try to find wholeness, to try to find happiness, to discover who I am and to go on my spiritual journey, right? And I had found a training that I really wanted to do. And it was happening in Florida at some place, I can't even remember, and it was certain days. You know, and so I had to ask permission of my boss to go to a training I really wanted to attend that only happened like once a year. And my boss, I went into his office and I told him I wanted to attend this training and I was asking for my vacation days. And he said no. Because the week before that week, there was a really big order that we had planned. Now, this was also far in advance. You know, it wasn't like I was saying, next week I want to be out of here. This was like months in advance, okay? The week before, there was scheduled a really big run for some important, client for this, for bear aspirin. And in case something happened and it ran late, he wanted me there. That made me mad. I'm like, I don't even get to decide when I have my own freaking vacation. You've got to be kidding me. And and chances are very good I won't even be needed because we always get stuff out on time, right? I was furious. So between Lolita's story and the opportunity to go to the Northwest and help out this woman and this, I can't even take my vacation when I want. I'm like, I'm out of here. That is the reason I found the courage to leave this horrendous job that was killing me. The whale had something to do with it, right? If it weren't for Lolita, if it weren't for this compelling project, where I would be going out in the world and helping somebody else. And it wasn't just about Lolita, right? The idea was to help free her, retrain her to what, like you don't free a whale, okay? You put them in a tank or a sea pen, and then you have trainers and vets and caregivers, but they retrain them to wild so that they're no longer, so they can learn to fish again, right? And dive deep and swim far and all these things that they have to learn how to do again before they can go free, because, they're fed dead fish. And sadly, also with Lolita, apparently some of the fish she was being fed, even though it was 25% less, it was also bad. Spoiled fish. So she was being given bad fish, less of it, whatever. I mean, it was horrible. And she's free now. She is swimming free. I've seen her with her family. I've even gone there, in meditation and been with her in the water. And, she's free. She's free to be anywhere in the world and be off world. She's free, right? And there's a level of freedom that happens when you are no longer in a bad situation. Right? I left the corporate world. I said sayonara and I waved and I was happy and I never looked back. Right? I've done a few little jobs along the way. I did run an internet department at a Nissan dealership part-time for a little while when my husband and I divorced. Because when he left and we got divorced, I didn't know what he was going to do. He'd always talked about traveling to South America, and I actually thought he was just going to pick up and move to South America or travel around and leave me high and dry to be completely responsible for my son's well-being and finances. And I thought, I need to be a responsible parent and make sure I have a steady income. Because when you're an entrepreneur, no matter who you are, the money tends to fluctuate. Unless you have ongoing clients or people in a membership program, like I have both now, but at the time I didn't have any of that, right? There's not money that you count on all the time. You're constantly looking for new clients, or you're constantly trying to put out, programs that people are interested in that they purchase, and it kind of fluctuates. And so you never know exactly how much money is going to be earned, especially back then when I was first kind of starting out. And so I got this little Nissan dealership job. And I did beautifully there, and that's helped me a lot in the future, because with the book work that I do, coaching authors. You know, we build websites for people. I built the website for the nonprofit for the dolphins and whales for Lolita. You know, so I started building websites back in 1997 or something like that. And I've been making them ever since for myself and clients. And I get to help people with their businesses, which is I really like it. It's really fun for me. So what I wanted to share was about this sad story that Lolita died, but also the celebration that she's free. Yay. So these are just some things that I wanted to share with you. I wanted to share with you about the meditation coming up on the 23rd, 8 p.m. wherever you are in the world. I'll give you the link below so that you can participate. Again, you can print it out from the website, or you can fill out the little form and get the words and get the audio so you can listen to my voice talking through the meditation. And you do have permission, if you lead a group or you want to take it to a group, you do have permission to play that with a group of people. Like this is a gift. And if you feel called, or you know somebody who has a story about leaving something, and it doesn't have to be a job, it can be a marriage, it can be a country. There are people participating in this thing, in this book collaboration, who are talking about they found the courage to leave their old mindset. That's what they left, right? They didn't really change their circumstance. They changed themselves. And they went from whatever this poor mindset was that was limiting them and their success and their happiness and their health and everything else that negative mental programming does, to happiness, success, all that. That's what their story is going to be about. Okay, so it's not always about these big dramatic things like what I did. You know, I quit being an engineer and manager in pharmaceuticals, making a lot of money, to a nonprofit in the Northwest. The right people are called to do this, and I just wanted you to know about it. And I wanted you to know about Lolita, because I know a lot of people love her. Tokitae, the Lummi Nation calls her. I ask you to think about what you're ready to let go of. You don't have to move. You don't have to get a new job or a career. You don't have to, but maybe it's time to have some separation between you and a friend or somebody who's narcissistic in your life, or maybe from focusing on negative things. So I just invite you to think about those things that you have the courage to leave now, or release and let go and let them go on their merry way without you. Many, many blessings, my friends. Until next time. Bye-bye.